What's going on, y'all? Chuck Nunface here, and today I've got a review of this knife right here. This is the Medford Knife and Tool M-48. Pretty cool knife, absolutely. Overall, it's definitely a continuing look at what Medford's doing, trying to get into or just breaking into more EDC friendly knives for the folks that don't want something that's real big and chunky or anything like that Medford is typically known for. And they execute it in a way that I think comes off pretty successfully. Absolutely. So kind of just jump right into some specs here right now. It does have a 3.9, almost 4-inch blade with about a 3 3/4 inch cutting edge. It has an aluminum show side, all right, and then it's got a titanium lock side or spring side, as they call it there. I guess it's called a river wash finish, but yeah, it's just it's like a light stone wash finish right there. And this one, of course, has a PVD coated blade and PVD coated aluminum show side scales. So with not being full TI, it is going to be a little bit lighter, and it's going to weigh in at, I can't remember the exact weight, but it is pretty light overall. So, and it's got a 0.125 blade stock right there, and it's got that cool made in the USA right there on the spine. Got some kind of cool stuff. The 4 stars for the general patent reference, and then the bulldog, of course, there on the spring clip, and M-48, and then the tank treads there as well. So definitely a cool design. So I believe this one is continuing to ride on bearings. Now, it is not a drop shut type of knife. But it does close, it does fly open with a nice light switch flick, and you can get it closed very easily as well. So, yeah, definitely some pretty cool stuff going on with this knife right here. So let's go do some size comparisons. This is the Ontario Rat 1, so it is similar in size to the Ontario Rat 1. It's got a longer blade, but shorter handle right there. So there's the Rat 1, and let's see. Not a Spyderco PM2, but a Spyderco Stretch 2, which is very similar in overall dimensions to the PM2. So I actually don't have my PM2 anymore, so this is going to be the stand-in for now. We're going to be doing the Spyderco Stretch 2, so we've got that one right there. Let's see, what else do we have? As always, we have the Spyderco Native 5 and the Chris Reeve Knives Large Sabenza right there. So very similar in size to the Sabenza, very similar in size to the PM2. Go ahead and put that one right there too. So that's gonna be a little bit longer than the Slim Mini Marauder. Thank you. Took me a second there. So it's going to be a little bit longer than that one. And let's see, this one also, it's going to kind of go in the same EDC, more EDC friendly style with smaller knives in Medford. And this, of course, is the Infraction as well. However, you'll notice it's very similar in width to the Slim Midi. Might be a little bit thicker, but it's much thinner than the Infraction, which is going to be a much thicker blade stock and thicker scales overall. So you can kind of see right there, pretty close, pretty similar to those two right there. So kind of got some size comparisons there now. Yeah, so like I say, it is a nice blade. It's a nice slicey blade, nice thin hollow ground right there. The tip is also interesting as well. I guess they're calling that their Magnus grind. And so it's a way to, from what I can tell, it's a way to add strength to the tip, but still keep it, from being too overly thick or anything like that. And so as you can see, it's got kind of a small swedge going on right there, and you can see how the bevel widens up into a nice, so it's going to be a thicker tip, but it's going to maintain some good cutting power all the way through the edge there. So I really like the blade profile on this a lot. I did a little bit of work with this. This one is not mine. It's on loan from my friend Greg, if you watch the unboxing video. And so I have carried it a little bit, and I did some cutting, broke down some cardboard with it. And it really does perform very well. I also carried this at work. I do work in an office, and this is just it's a little big, but it's definitely office friendly. It's lightweight. It slips right into the pocket. This spring clip is very good in the pocket. And it's very easy to carry all day. It doesn't take up a lot of real estate. That flipper right there, it's got some nice jimping on it. As you can see, some nice jimping, very positive jimping on the flipper, but no other type of jimping really anywhere else. And so it's pretty inobtrusive in the pocket. It doesn't really take up a lot of real estate. And, for those of you who aren't big fans of jimping on knives, you're not going to find a lot on this one. So that should be a plus for those of you that really aren't into, the overly jimp knives or anything like that. So I'm trying to think. I don't even really have anything that's got a whole lot of jimping, right there. But this is it really just lacks it all over, which is fine. You can see it does kind of wear in right there, that detent ball. So, when they're coated, they tend to, especially when they're coated, Medford knives tend to take a little while to wear in, because they do outsource to another company. I believe it's called Armor Coat or Armor Tough. I believe it's Armor Tough, in just almost right across the street from them in Phoenix. And they do all of their coating, and it's really good stuff. And it does take a little while to kind of wear in, but once that D10 ball wears in, things tend to loosen up a little bit. And yeah, it's definitely nice. I mean, it's not a drop shut knife, so if drop shut is something that's really important to you, you're not going to get that, at least not initially with this. Now, if I did a bearing swap or something like that, maybe that would change. But, as of right now, that is not the case. Does run on the pivot right there is going to be the same as what we were working with the Slim MIDI. So it's going to be a T30. I believe it's a T30. It could be a T28, but I believe it's a T30 on that one right there. And then, of course, it's going to be T8s on your other pieces. Just 2 pins right there to take it apart. So pretty simple right there. Interestingly, also, another good thing to note is that this pocket clip is reversible. I really like the way they milled that out. And you're going to be able to flip it around and, make it lefty friendly as much as you can with a frame lock. And, it's going to have that same sort of recessed cutout right there on that side as well. So, yeah, a lot to like at this knife. But that being said, it is not perfect. There were a few things finish-wise that I wasn't too pleased with this model. Now, bear in mind, this is a sample size of 1. So this may not be indicative of the entire line, but there's a couple things that I noticed, right off the bat, well, after carrying it for a little bit, that I wasn't really too pleased with. One was which, and I'm not sure if they're all like this, but it doesn't really come to a super acute point. It seems just a bit rounded. The tip does right there. Now, I don't know if it's just this blade, but I mean, I would like to see it be a little bit pointier. Now, that's kind of a nitpick, but it was something that kind of jumped out at me, and maybe that's the way with this, Magnus tip that they are, but I would like to see that to be finished a little bit more. And, the complaints that I have, it's a good knife. It's definitely a good knife, but it comes into play because what we're talking about here is an American-made knife. And Medford knives, as we know, they're not cheap. So this, as configured, I believe will come in right around $550. All right. And so at $550, I don't want to see some of the things that I'm seeing, on this knife, because there are other options in that price range. Now, Medford they have a pricing model. They know what they're doing. I'm not saying they're not worth the money overall. I'm just saying, at the price that they are, you want to have it be pretty darn close to perfect. And this one has some things that I really think they kind of missed on. So right there is the tip, and maybe that's by design, and that's just something I'm not a fan of. But that was something that I noticed. Another thing as well, and I'll try to capture it in the light here, is you can see the grinds along the blade. It looks like it was buffed out here, but they still have grinds right there. So you can still see the grind pattern. And it's the same on this side as well. So it looks like it's more buffed out here. And then you get your striations from your belt there. So I really like the pattern that Medford does on their knives. I'm not complaining about that. I think that's great. I think it's beautiful, frankly. I really like that quite a bit. Love it. But when it's kind of half there and half not there, I think that's a little annoying. So it's either pick it, finish it, or redo it. You know, that's a QC issue in my opinion. Another thing is it's got this scale on the inside of the lock cutout. Now, I don't know if that's from, you know, when you're laser cutting that or water jetting it rather, or whatever that is, but that shouldn't be left on. So if that didn't come out in, you know, their Sonic Clean or something like that, you got to get in there with a piece of sandpaper and just kind of like you're flossing teeth and just get that out of there, because that scale should not be on the inside of that cutout right there. So that's another thing when it comes to finish work on a knife at this price point that I really don't like seeing. That should be tidied up before it gets through QC and goes out the door. So, you know, that's somewhat nitpicky, but it's just at the price point, I don't think you're picking nits. I think it really just needs to kind of be hitting it out of the park. You know, you may not like every particular style or some choices, design choices, things like that. And, you know, that's completely subjective, but fit and finish, that's not subjective, or finish, I should say. I mean, the fit is fine on this. There's no problems whatsoever. There's no rock. There's no play in any direction. When I take the pressure off the lock bar, no issues whatsoever. You know, it does have that little kind of cutout that's a little sharp. It suffers from the same thing that the MIDI Marauder suffers from, where it's a little bit sharp right there and not the super, you know, not the easiest thing to access. But, you know, it is what it is. That's just kind of how it is. So not really a whole lot to complain about there. I mean, there are other options at this price point or lower that can be had that I don't think you're going to find those sort of issues. I mean, the Sabenza, well, 31, this is the 21, but the Sabenza 31 is one that you can get that's around that price. And you're probably not going to have, you know, you're not going to have an aluminum show side scale. It's going to be full TI. And you're also probably not going to have any sort of fit issues. Now, some other options that might even be lower than that, you could look at the ZT0452. If you're looking at, you know, right around 4-inch blade, American made, you know, there's some other options out there. I try to think of a few others. I had some in mind, but they're kind of escaping me right now. So, you know, just kind of final thoughts on this one here. It is a good knife. It really is. I don't know if I mentioned it, but this one is S35. I really enjoy it. I mean, I think it checks a lot of boxes, and it will check a lot of boxes for a lot of people. But we are spoiled for choice at this price point. I mean, Medford knives are one of my favorite companies. Over the years, I've owned 15, 16 different Medfords. And I think I currently own maybe 3, I think. But, you know, they're great knives, and I really like them a lot. I really like this one too, but I don't know if this is one that I would 100% recommend at this price point. I mean, I think this one is maybe $350 knife, something like that. It just doesn't quite check enough boxes for me to justify the price. So take that as you will. Go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like. Let me know what you think. If you have this and you think I'm just crazy for thinking that, or maybe you agree with me, I'm not sure. But go ahead and leave me a comment. Give me a follow on Instagram at Chuck_Nunface. If you haven't already, please hit that little subscribe button right there in the corner. That definitely helps me out a lot. And stay tuned for more. I really appreciate y'all checking it out. Thanks.